That message clearly wasn't for me. My fingers shake slightly over the phone screen as I released those few words, unable to believe what I saw. 4 years of relationship, reliable, built with so much effort, and just 9 syllables to collapse everything as a castle of cards. I can't wait to see you tonight. I miss you. I remember as if it were today. It was a Thursday and I left work early, eager to get home. I passed the delivery and grabbed his favorite plate, that dual-portion noodle of vegetables, because in the morning he had mentioned, worried, the tight deadline of a project. Upon entering the apartment, just silence. The bedroom door ajar, the noise of the water falling into the shower. I decided to surprise him. It was then that I saw the notification flashing on his cell phone screen, abandoned on the bed. I was never one of those who run away on the phone of others. My family was destroyed because of mutual distrust and spying, and I had sworn to myself never to repeat that pattern. But there was something in that preview of message that attracted me like a magnet. The name of the sender, Inna, of accounting. The same Inna Malchev that he mentioned occasionally during dinner, always casually, always in professional context. The same one who, the year before, had sent a Christmas card with a handwritten message, something that seemed excessively personal at the time. Inna, whose profile on social networks appeared in search results when, unintentionally, I used his notebook last month. I held the phone tightly, hearing the sound of the water falling in the bathroom while a wave of suffocation invaded me. Time seemed to have stopped. I could confront him at that very moment, wait for him to get out of the shower, pretend he had seen nothing. But instead I made a decision that would change everything. I put the phone exactly as it was, took the keys and left the food on the kitchen table with a note. They called work urgently. Eat without me. I love you. I didn't go to the office. I drove to a park 3 blocks from home, parked under a huge board, and only then did I allow the pain to be completely invaded. The betrayal burned inside. It was not just infidelity, but the ease with which he led that double life. How many nights did he touched me with the same hands that, minutes before, typed messages for her? How many times have I talked about my book club, not knowing that I was providing you with the perfect alibi? I stayed there until the sun was put, watching families collecting picnic baskets, teenagers playing frisbee, couples walking hand in hand. Life followed its normal course while mine fell on 1,000 fragments. The phone vibrated, his message. Thanks for dinner. I'll be late at Project Horizont. Don't wait. The Horizont project, that large public contract he worked for 6 months, had been finalized 2 weeks earlier. The whole team celebrated. That night I returned home near midnight. He slept, or pretended to sleep. I stood at the bedroom door, watching the movement of my chest, studying the face I thought was better than my own. Sleeping, he looked exactly with the man I married, kind, safe, mine. But it was no longer. Maybe it had never been. That dawn, I cried until dawn in the living room, turning photos on my cell phone, our wedding, silly selfies in restaurants, looking for clues that I could have ignored. When the man of those images decided that I was not enough, the next morning I perfectly staged the role of wife who suspects nothing. I prepared coffee, kissed farewell, asked about the plans of the day. Each daily gesture hurt as if it stepped into shards of glass, but my face was not showing anything. When he left, he remembered his mother's birthday over the weekend. Barbecue in the farm. My mother asked you especially to do that salpicao. Everyone loves, he said, squeezing my shoulder. Ludmila Pavlovna, my mother-in-law, who welcomed me with open arms, but never let it forget that I was not exactly what she imagined for her beloved son. The woman who kept on the shelf his photo of his school girlfriend next to our wedding photo, which once at a family dinner introduced me to the current wife. And it was then that a dangerous idea crossed my mind. Something that should shock me, but instead it was like the first deep breath after almost drowning. Of course, I said with a smile that didn't come to the eye. I wouldn't lose for anything. When his car doubled the corner, I made another decision. There would be no scenes, shouts, broken dishes, or scratches on Camry's bodywork as in cheap soap operas. No. That betrayal deserved something more sophisticated, up to the calculating frivolity with which he deceived me. I took the phone and opened the notebook. I needed information, and knew exactly where to find it. Locating Inner was easier than I imagined. 4 years of marriage have become confident but not naive. He knew his email password, the cloud login, had even enabled the location on his cell phone, with the excuse of knowing when he got out of work. Those digital tracks painted a painting that left me disgusted with each new discovery. The case lasted much longer than I imagined. By changing messages I found, carefully hidden in a folder called Budget Reports 2024, they had been seen for at least 8 months. 8 months of lies. All that time, I washed sheets that they dirty together while he arrived late, making up lame excuses. I found reservations for a weekend at a winery in Krasnodar, just when he was allegedly at a marketing conference in St. Petersburg. I saw the debt of a jewelry I never received, from restaurants that he claimed to be pretentious and too expensive. But the worst was not the betrayal itself. It was realizing that I lived in a meticulously built illusion. Every time any doubt, as vague as it was, it arose in my mind, he made me go through jealous, paranoid, suspicious. "How can you think of such a thing? I would never do that to you," he said with offended air. "Don't you trust me?" Pure gaslighting. And I, like a fool, apologized for doubting. He tried to be the perfect wife, better understood his overload, valued career dedication more, asked for less attention. 4 days after that message, I found Inna Malchev's profile on VK. 30-2 years old, blonde of a natural beauty that made other women ranked the envy teeth while self-esteem collapsed. Its feed was impeccable: gym photos, fashion restaurants, paradisiacal beaches. No trace of my husband, of course, they were too cautious for that. But there was a picture that caught my attention, a close-up of her hand holding a cocktail, with a delicate golden bracelet on her wrist. The caption said, "The best gift of a special person. He always knows what I want." I recognized that bracelet. Exactly the same as I had enchanted in the Sunyalai showcase during our birthday trip last year. When I pointed to her, he only nodded distractedly, as if to say, "Beautiful, but expensive." 2 weeks later, a payment of that same store appeared in the card statement. When I asked, he replied that he had bought a birthday gift for his mother. It was 6 months left for the mother-in-law's birthday. That night, while he slept beside me, I was awake, rebuilding the timeline of betrayal. Frequent business trips. The sudden signature of the academy, to which he dedicated himself so much fervor. The new perfume. I just wanted to try something different. Sen. Har of the notebook, which suddenly did not work when I tried to print a document, forcing it to typing it quickly, as if it feared I saw it. The phone that took to the shower. All of this I noticed, but ignored, convinced that the man he loved would never inflict me so much pain. I trusted him without reservation. I defended it tooth and nail when friends, with caution, suggested that their absences were becoming suspicious. "He is building a career, we are investing in our future," I justified. What future? The one he would leave me for Inna? Or the one I would remain in blessed ignorance while he led a double life? The pain was physical, a constant twinge under the ribs that prevented me from breathing properly. In a week, I lost 3 pounds. The food became a flavorless cardboard. Sleep, a luxury that could not allow me. Whole nights analyzing digital clues of betrayal. At work, he worked on autopilot. He nodded at the right times at meetings, mechanically smiled at his colleagues' jokes. Until, one night, while preparing dinner, ironically, his favorite lasagna, my sister called. We were always close, we talked several times a week, but I had avoided their calls since I discovered the case. She knew me too much, I would notice the tremor in the voice. "Hi," disappeared, she said when I finally answered. "Are you still alive?" "Only overwhelmed," I said, forcing a normal tone. "A lot at work." Silence. "Are you well? Your voice is strange." The words went up through the throat like a knot. The message, Inner, months of lies. I almost got off. But something held me. If I spoke aloud, everything would become real, and I wasn't ready to face this reality. In addition, my sister would require clashes, answers, divorce, all that predictable script. "I'm fine," I lied. "Just a little cold." I hung up and kept stirring the sauce, watching the wooden spoon draw spirals in the stainless steel pan. That's when another message came, late at work. Don't wait. I put the phone with the screen down and followed. Suddenly a cold clarity took over me. I had given all that man, trust, love, unconditional support during his professional crises and family dramas. I was by your side when your father died 2 years ago. I organized the funeral while he drowned in mourning. Last year, when she decided to take a license 3 months to meet, I worked bent to support us. We had no children because he wasn't ready yet. I built my life around him, and in return he cheated on me as cowardly as possible. Not just with a lover, but with a meticulously erected lies architecture to cover it up. Each I love you, every promise about our future, was now stained. I had given everything, and they threw me out like a disposable object. This realization was not limited to him. It also included his family, the one who accepted me superficially, but always made it clear that I was not enough. Your mother, with her useful advice about my cooking. His sister, who, after 4 years of marriage, still called me the new girlfriend of Artem. His father, who, shortly before he died, drunk, commented that his son had married down on the professional staircase. That night I threw my lasagna untouched in the trash and made a decision. There would be not just fights or a dramatic exit, knocking on the door. No. This betrayal, this total collapse of my reality, deserved something more grand. Something that prevented him to rewrite our story or paint me like the villain in the eyes of the next. Something unforgettable. It was exactly 10 days left for Lyudmila Pavlovna's 65th birthday. A striking date, planned for months, with the whole family together, close friends and neighbors. Artem rolled his eyes, calling Ak Uelo of the social event of the season in their circle, but did not hide the pride. He loved how the mother turned each celebration into a small spectacle. I needed to act fast, but accurately. No emotional explosions or impulsive decisions. This required calculation. First, I needed irrefutable evidence, not just messages and emails. And that's when I did something I never imagined being able to. I hired a private detective. My hands trembled while dialing the number. Am I going crazy? Is this just paranoia? No. The message was real. The pain in the chest too. It was not a suspected type of police series, but a middle-aged woman with 20 years of experience and impeccable internet ratings. We met in a coffee half an hour away from my neighborhood. I don't want intimate photos or something, I made it clear. Just facts. Confirmations. Documents. Information. She nodded, understanding without more words. Chronology. Meeting places. Cleaning. Identity confirmation. Preliminary data in 48 hours. She fulfilled her promise. 2 days later, I had photos of Artem and Inna entering boutique hotel Nevelux in the city center, just when he was supposed to be in meetings with customers. Recordings of conversations in public places, nothing explicit, but intimate enough to dispel any doubt about the nature of their relationship. And the most valuable, personal data from Inna. Address, phone, full information about your work. But the most shocking discovery was not about the case. You may be to check your joint accounts, said the detective casually on our second meeting. Something doesn't hit the movements I tracked. That night, as he slept, I dived headlong into our finances. What I found made the betrayal seem an insignificant detail. He had systematically transferred money from our joint savings, the one we opened for the initial payment of the apartment of our dreams, to a separate account, which I was not aware of. First in small amounts, then, in the last year, at increasing values. 2.5 million rubles had evaporated. I also found that 3 months ago he had hired a personal loan without consulting me, something that, according to our prenuptial contract, required joint decision. Yes, we had a prenuptial contract. Lyudmila Pavlovna had insisted, claiming protection of family assets. Now the irony was cruel. With trembling hands, I documenting everything, I copied extracts, saved files in an encrypted Yandex disk, to which feels pain. It has always been so, a sensitive man who suffers in silence. But today, especially today, I think he needs some fresh air. Isn't it, dear? He swallowed hard, his fingers squeezing the steering wheel until his fingers were white. Did not answer. I didn't need to. The scene was already assembled, and each actor unknowingly took his place on the stage I had prepared myself. You look beautiful, Inna, I added, turning lightly on the bench to smile at her. I think Ludmila Pavlovna will love to meet her. She always says that Arsham's co-workers are like a family. A pity he never introduces them, to this day. The silence in the car was so dense that you could cut with the knife I had hidden in my bag, not a real knife, of course, but the metaphor was tempting. Inna laughs nervously, adjusting the bag in the lap, while Arsham seemed about to pass out. He didn't tell me you knew, she murmured, finally realizing that something was horribly wrong. Know what, exactly? I asked, with an innocence so well rehearsed that I even convinced myself. That you have both worked so closely lately, or that he has been so generous with family money. His eyes widened. She looked at Arsham, seeking salvation. But he found only one broken man, stuck in his own trap. I don't understand, she stammered. Of course not, I sighed, as if I explained something to a child. But you will understand. Everyone will understand. Today. Datcha's gate opened, revealing the garden decorated with care, the full tables, the guests laughing under the afternoon sun. Ludmila Pavlovna, radiant in her silk dress, waved at us from the top of the staircase. Finally, he exclaimed, down the steps with the grace of a cream hostess. Arsham, my son, you look pale. And this must be the famous Inna. She held out her hands, wrapping Inna in a hug that was warm and suffocating. What a pleasure to meet the colleague my son praises so much. He talks about you all the time. Arsham shudder. Inna, in turn, tried to smile, but her lips trembled. Thanks for the invitation, he said, the thin voice as a rice roll. Ah, honey, the gratitude is ours, I said, putting an arm through her shoulders as if we were old friends. After all, who better to celebrate with the family than someone who knows our Arsham so well? Ludmila Pavlovna laughed, without realizing the poisonous irony in my words. Come on, come. The others are already asking for you. She guided us toward the main table, where family cousins, uncles, and friends already raised her cups. Arsham tried to hold my arm, the cold fingers like claws. Please, he whispered, his voice broken. Don't do it here. I looked at him, and for the first time in months, I really smiled. It's done, I said softly. And you will watch every second. Because today it was not just about exposure. It was about justice. And justice, when served cold, has a very, very sweet taste. He insisted that you would not come, I muttered, leaning slightly toward her, as if a secret between friends shared. I said you would never lose his mother's birthday. That was sacred. That you, especially you, would understand the importance of the family. Arsham's fingers spiked the arm of the chair until we whiten. He knew. I knew exactly where I was taking it. The golden bracelet he gave you, I continued, drawing imaginary circles in the air with his finger, how to admire the play, the same one you showed on social networks on February 14th. What shines both in the photos and his loyalty to him? Inna swallowed hard. His gaze jumped between me and Arsham, which now looked like a cornered animal. Yeah, I sighed, almost pity. It was paid with the company's corporate card. The same as he used to book suite in Sochi, where you renewed the votes that are technically still mine. I turned to the table, where everyone was paralyzed, like statues in a horror museum. And guess what? The audit already has copies of everything. Even the messages where he asks you to adjust the fourth quarter reports. I smiled at Inna, sweet as poison. You're good with numbers, aren't you? A pity that accounting fraud does not disappear as easy as the evidence you thought you had erased. Ludmila Pavlovna let out a sound, something between a hiccup and a growl. His eyes, once full of maternal pride, now burned with a mixture of shame and fury. Did you steal from your own family? Her voice trembled, each syllable a blow. Of your children? Arsham opened his mouth, but no word came out. There were no excuses that could fix that. No lie that would not collapse under the weight of those papers, those transactions, that black and white printed betrayal. Oh, and Ludmila Pavlovna, I added, as if I remember a trivial detail, the earrings you wear today. Do the diamond, who combines so well with your dress. I leaned over, lowering my voice to a conspiracy tone. They were bought with the money he diverted from the company's emergency medical fund. That Smoom should cover the treatment of the secretary's son, remember? Does the child with leukemia? I let the question hover, watching the blood drain from her face. The followed silence was so dense that you could cut with the silver knife that Arsham crushed between the fingers. You're a monster, he finally spat, his voice broken with hatred and fear. No, Karaji, lifting my glass in a lone toast. I'm justice. And unlike you, I don't need masks. I drank a sip, savoring the bitter taste of champagne, almost as bitter as Ina's expression, which now understood what it was to be just another disposable piece on the board of Arsham. Oh, and before I forget, I added, as if it were a last-minute memory. The audit will also love to know that you both used the official car for weekend escapes. I turned to my father-in-law, who seemed about to have a heart attack. Pavel Sergeyevich, you always said that confidence is the basis of a business, don't you? Well, I pointed to Art Hiram with the cup. Your son is a trusted black hole. And now, everyone will know. The crack of the crystal when I put the glass on the table echoed like a shot. The party is over for you, I declared, looking straight into Arsham's eyes. But for me. I smiled slowly and deliberately. This is just the beginning. My eyes took time on the same wristwatch he had given me, the same as, according to his words, was absurdly overvalued before buying him for me. Classic, isn't it? I put the napkin on the table with a deliberate gesture and got up. Ludmila Pavlovna, thank you for welcoming me in your family for those 4 years. Despite everything, I value your attempt to accept me. The birthday is wonderful. A calculated pause. I apologize, but I won't be for the cake. I surrounded the table until I stopped by my husband. He didn't lift his eyes. I didn't even need to. I already removed the essentials, I murmured, just for him. Next week, I ask my sister to look for the rest. My tone was neutral, almost casual, as if talking about the weather. The prenuptial contract is clear. Betrayal nullifies any protection on assets. My lawyer will contact. I turned my back before he could react, crossing the crowd of astonished relatives as if he cut spider web. At the door, the taxi I had scheduled in advance already expected, punctual as a verdict. Behind me, Ludmila Pavlovna's shrill voice tore the air. How could you do this on my birthday? But she didn't talk to me. I knew she didn't deserve such a scandal in her jubilee. But did I deserve to have lived for years with a child who was above the laws? A man she had created to believe that the rules did not apply to him, while she, with her apologies and her his like that, fed this illusion. Maybe it was time for her to see the monster she helped create. That was 11 months ago. Sometimes I still wake up and extend my hand to the empty side of the bed before remembering. Old habits die slowly, even when they do not deserve to survive. The divorce was faster than I imagined. I found that men threatened with criminal proceedings for diversion of funds become surprisingly cooperative in negotiations. The company filed the action. He stated guilty of minor accusations in exchange for denunciation against the true architects of the scheme, those who, unlike him, had the power to protect themselves. Ina, her office accomplice, also collaborated with the investigators, swearing that she knew nothing. Maybe it was true. Maybe not. Anyway, he was fired and, as he knew, returned to Nizhny Novgorod, his hometown, with his tail between his legs. 3 months after the Jubilee, I received a handwritten letter from Ludmila Pavlovna. 10 pages on cotton paper, filled with its sharp handwriting. Part excuses, part justification, part attempt of reconciliation. Since then, we have met for coffee twice. Uncomfortable conversations, full of rehearsed sentences and unlucky regrets. She always asks if we can maintain any kind of relationship. I haven't decided yet. What surprised me was Arsham's sister. She came to me shortly after her mother's birthday. I always knew he hid something, he confessed one night, between wine cups. It was the father's favorite son. Nothing to do was wrong. This gave him the certainty that everything could. Today we are something like friends. Sometimes healing comes from where we least expect it. I was able to recover enough money to enter a small apartment in another neighborhood. Simple. Clean. No shared memories, no ghosts in the corridors. I painted each wall in the colors he would hate, an act of possession, a declaration of independence. Don't you regret exposing everything so publicly? They ask. Couldn't it have been more discreet? They confuse my accuracy with cruelty, my strategy with revenge. They do not understand that the secret was his weapon. Discretion protected your betrayals. The shadows fed their lies. I chose the light. Sometimes at night, I sit in the kitchen of my new apartment with a glass of wine and mentally review the Jubilee scene. Not to taste your humiliation, but to remember that moment I recovered my dignity. It was there that everything changed. Seeing his castle of letters collapse, he was not just exposing his dishonesty, he was refusing to become his silent accomplice. Yesterday, I received a work proposal in Ekaterinburg. A significant increase, a fresh start. I accepted on time. They always attracted me, the mountains, while he preferred the sea. These small choices, made only for me, still sound revolutionary. Do you still love him? It's the question I hear the most. The truth is complex. I love the man I thought he was. I fight for the future that we will never have. But I do not regret incinerating the beautiful and carefully built lie that was our marriage. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for ourselves and others is to tell the truth. As much as destructive lies haunts us, the truth, as painful as it is the only antidote that heals. As for forgiveness, it's still a path under construction. Not for him, but for me. Forgiving does not mean pretending that betrayal did not exist. It means not letting her define my tomorrow. My revenge at that Jubilee was never about destroying it. It was about refusing to be destroyed. About not carrying the shame that never belonged to me, about not accepting the role of deceived wife, resigned to silence. In the end, the most perfect revenge was not public exposure, nor the legal consequences, not even the financial agreement. It was the moment when he left that dacha, for the first time in 3 months, all only mine. Would you do it differently today? They ask. I always give the same answer. I regret just one thing. I didn't eat a portion of the mimosa salad. After all, it was my specialty, and I never had a chance to prove it at Ludmila Pavlovna's table. This idea sometimes makes me laugh, as something so trivial can stand out amid existential collapse. But this is how healing works, finding grace in the most unexpected places. Last week, I finally kept our wedding album. Not with anger or sadness, but with the same indifference with which an old didactic book archive. Something that has already fulfilled its purpose. It is said that revenge is a cold dish. Mine was not even revenge. It was the truth, served exactly as it needed to be, unbreakable and complete. My therapist says I made significant progress. I tell her that it's because I didn't leave pieces of me behind when it leaves. I took everything that mattered, my dignity, my future. My ability to trust in my own judgment. This morning I woke up and realized that I didn't think of it for 3 days in a row. Progress is not always noisy. Sometimes he arrives in a whisper. The mountains of the Urals outside the window of my new apartment are in purple at dusk. No one here knows my story unless I choose share it. This anonymity is another form of freedom, a space to redefine me beyond what they did to me. Perhaps the cure is not to forget the past, but remember it without letting it poison the present. I haven't got there yet, but for the first time I see the way clearly. As for Ludmila Pavlovna's famous dinners, I heard they have been much rarer lately. Sometimes justice doesn't have to scream. It simply happens, silent. Like dawn, turning everything around you without advertising. There is a beauty in this, the certainty that even when no one is looking, the world adjusts. The accounts get it right. The wounds, although they never completely disappear, stop hurting the same intensity. If these words have resonated on you, if you have at some point you recognized yourself, know that you are not alone. There are more of us than we imagine, scattered around the world, learning to carry the weight without letting it define us. And if this account served as a mirror, comfort, or even warning, then he fulfilled his purpose. May the next time you come across an invitation to one of those shining dinners, remember, not everything that shines is gold. And not everything that is silent is defeated. See you soon.